talked about before, you know, if you're new to the scroll saw, some things are really important. One is the tension on your blade. If a blade is not tensioned enough, it'll tend to flex back and forth and you'll break blades a lot. Also, if the blade is over tensioned, you'll break blades. So you want to find a good tension for the blade, and basically the way to do that is once you get your blade tensioned, the blade should not deflect more than 1/8 inch in any direction. And it's actually better to over tension your blade than it is to under tension the blade. What will happen is if you under tension it and you're pushing, especially when you're new to the saw, you'll actually curve the blade and you'll get very bad cuts. The cuts won't be even top to bottom. And especially when you're stack cutting, if you do that, your bottom piece will come out pretty bad. So if you're going to make a mistake, err on the side of getting it too tight. And they say that once you have it tensioned correctly, you'll hear a C sharp once you pluck the blade. Now, I've played guitar in my life and I still can't tell when the blade's at a C sharp. So if you can do that, more power to you. To me, it's more of a feel thing than it is a sound thing. Okay, I've got all the little circles on the interiors of the flowers cut. Now I'm just going to go to some of these interior cuts around the flowers and the leaves and see where we end up. On a piece like this, on the interior cut, again, this doesn't have to be cut perfect, but I've talked about this before. When you get ready to make a cut like this, try to find yourself a little corner you can start in. Try not to start on the curve of the pattern because you'll have a hard time hiding your transition from where you start and stop. So once you get to a place where you feel comfortable to start, try to start in a corner where you can hide that transition a little bit. That leaf, and then we'll go around the petals of the flower. And you can see what I just did there is when I finish that cut, and I just do it out of habit now, as soon as I finish I twist the piece a little bit and the teeth of the blade will actually pop the pieces out for you. Probably 90% of the time you can get them to just pop out and get them out of your way without having to take them out. This pattern will be available on my website. As soon as I finish cutting this, I'll go up and edit the video, and that'll take a couple hours. And once I get that done, I'll go ahead and post the video and the pattern for you all to download and cut. Again, this is going to be an easy project. You'll easily be able to finish this in an afternoon. The scroll work is not difficult at all. It is going to require that you have a couple more tools. You're going to need a router table, or at least a router. And you're going to need a table saw to get all these pieces cut nice and square so they'll fit together when we glue them up as a box. Now, when we glue this box up, I'm just going to use simple butt joints. I'm not going to get fancy with this at all. You know, we could dovetail them or, you know, use miter cuts or whatever, but I'm not going to do that in this case. I'm just going to go ahead and use some butt joints to put it together, and I think it'll look fine. I'll show you what I do sometimes when I drill these holes out. If I don't use a good backer board, and if in this case I do a really bad job of taping up the back of the wood, sometimes the holes will get obscured in the back a little bit and they're hard to see. So I get a little scratch awl and I'll go back and redo the holes in the back of the piece so I can find them a little easier when I'm actually doing the cutting. And it can make a lot of difference, because in that case I was having a hard time even finding the interior hole to cut. So these come in pretty handy. You could even just use one of your scroll saw blades to pop these little holes, but this works pretty good for me, and it makes a nice hole where I can see it real well. Okay, we're coming up on the end of this stack cut piece that we're working on the side, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera back on here and show you the end of this. And I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and let you see that we basically saved probably a good 20 minutes by cutting both of these pieces at the same time. So there's our piece, the stack cut piece, and I'm going to grab my razor blade here and we'll cut that apart and see how we did, and hopefully we'll have two pieces that match pretty well, and at the same time we saved ourselves a considerable amount of cutting. Now if you just like to cut, obviously you can cut both of these separately, but it's a lot of work, extra work that you don't have to do. And if you're making these for gifts or something and you're going to make a few of them, why not save the time? So I'm going to go ahead and break those apart, and there you go. We've got our two side pieces cut as one, and now we can go ahead and begin on the front of the clock. Cut the front of the clock here at the saw now, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out the hole for the clock insert. And basically I want to show you, or talk again about how important it is to stay inside this line. You don't want to get this too big and your clock not fit. So I'm going to go ahead and come in at this line at a right angle, and just before I get to it, I'm going to spin the wood and start around the circle. And again, I'm going to slow the speed of the saw down here a little bit so I can make sure I stay inside this line. Now, probably a 32nd of an inch is all you're going to need to stay inside it. Don't get too much and leave yourself too much cylinder. But I am going to take my time here and make sure I leave enough wood to get that clock to fit. I'm probably cutting a little closer than a 32nd actually, but you want at least a full blade width inside the circle. There's no reason to rush this part. This will make you have to cut this piece all over again if you get it wrong. Okay, finished cutting that circle. It's not a perfect circle, but it's not far from it. But what we want to do now is make sure that our clock will fit in here. So before I cut the rest of these pieces, I'm going to go ahead and open the clock up and we'll fit it in there and just make sure we haven't screwed it. Okay, here's my clock insert that I picked up from Woodcraft. Again, it's a 2 3/4 inch clock insert, and the hole you need to cut to make it fit is 2 3/8 inches, which of course is how the pattern's drawn. And what we want is a good snug fit. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here and just see how we did. And we want it, oh, that's perfect. Nice and snug, not going to fall out, and yet I was able to just pop it in there. So you can see you can cut these holes out without a forcing a bit, and with a little bit of practice you can get a nearly perfect circle.